Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast is a Christ-centered podcast. Established in 2019 and hosted weekly by Pastor Chris Busher. Addressing a host of topics such as the Great Commission, Christian discipleship, and often featuring interviews with special guests who are experts in their field. The views and events expressed on this podcast and all related materials belong solely to their author and not necessarily to the author's employer, organization, committee, or other group or individual. While all attempts are made to present accurate information, some information may become outdated over time. Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast makes every attempt to timely update any and all such information. Without further delay, here's another powerful episode of Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast. Once again, I am your host here, Dallas Monticue. Today we have another wonderful guest joining us, Robert Beverly from Chicago. Robert, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you, Dallas?
I'm doing pretty well. Doing good too, yeah. Today we're going to discuss your book, Jesus and the Girl in the Orange Bikini. And when I first saw this title, I'm like, what is happening here? I'm really interested in this book, in this title. And so I'm excited to have you here and talk about this with our audience today. Before we begin, I always like to give the guests the opportunity to share a little bit about your personal testimony, why you're a Christian, why you still follow Jesus today. How could you answer that question, Robert?
Well, that question is answered in the book, and I don't want to give too much away, but this book is about my testimony and my journey and how I got there. It's a memoir. There's some funny stories of my life that everything kind of led me there. But I became a Christian the night before Thanksgiving in 2014. And a lot of people don't know the exact time they became a Christian, but I do. And that's what led me to write this book. And it happened to me the night before, early evening, November of 2014. And I was in a dark place, going through some really difficult times. And I was driving along in my car, and I looked over to the passenger side, and Jesus was in my car. He was there next to me. Wow. That's why the book is called Jesus and the Girl in the Orange Bikini, because it also intertwines with that girl and how she played a factor in my life and my journey to Jesus. And it changed me. You know, we Christians, we go through how we get to Jesus, whether you're born in the faith and you raise up in a church or you're at your lowest of lows. And for me, when Jesus came to me, when I experienced him, the weight of the world lifted off of me. And you don't know how burdened you are until the weight is gone. And I tell people it's like I had a barbell on my shoulders and I was doing squats in the gym, and I lifted it off, and that feeling of, okay, that's done. That's what happened to me. It was such a profound experience that the binds and the weight of the world left me. And I had such a aura of calmness and peace and joy and happiness, laughter, you know. So that's kind of what happened to me. I don't want to give away too much because it's all written out in the book, but that's when it happened to me.
And I do want to ask a specific question. Why do you think this was your encounter with Jesus? Because there's, like you said, so many other encounters. Why do you think this is the one he chose specifically for you?
I think God and Jesus comes to you when you need him. Sometimes we search and we ask and, you know, send me signs, let me know. And maybe we don't see them. Maybe they're right in front of our face and we don't see them. I really believe Jesus gives you what you want when you're ready to receive it. And sometimes we don't know we're ready to receive it. I didn't know I was ready to receive it. I didn't know I needed it. I thought I was forgotten. And I go into in depth about that in the book, of how I felt forgotten and lost and was trying to solve everything myself through most of my life. Like we do, you know, work harder, be nicer, pray more. I didn't even know how to pray. I was raised Catholic, Italian American neighborhood in the suburbs of Chicago, and I didn't know how to pray. You know, I really didn't. And to answer your question, I think he came to me because he knew what I needed at that moment, and he knew what was to come. Because Jesus coming to me that evening in the Tahoe wasn't the end. It was the beginning.
You're listening to the Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast. We'll be right back after this quick word from our sponsors.
It's winter in New England, and a small abandoned kitten struggles through the snow. When he stumbles upon a large old house in the woods, he's hoping to find his forever home, but instead begins his first big adventure. In Flea Biscuit Finds a Home, the little stray confronts bullying and adversity, but also sees that kindness and friendship can come to those with a gentle heart. Flea Biscuit discovers that he has much to learn, and that trying to grow up and find your purpose in life is hard work. Find your copy of Flea Biscuit Finds a Home on Amazon today. Chat receives a phone call from the hospital only to learn that his wife has been a victim of the most common crime these days, identity theft. Her microchip was cut out of her hand during a store robbery. Chat's wife Jessica is the picture-perfect citizen behind whom he can easily hide his Christianity, but he soon realizes she needs Jesus as well. Her sole focus is on adopting a chipless child from among the children surfacing in society without any record of their existence or parentage. Find your copy of the Nebulae System on Amazon today.
I thought it was the end. I thought it was the answer to all my prayers. We get wrapped up as God and Jesus as Santa Claus, to rescue us, and everything's going to be great. But the journey just begins.
That's a good point. Another question I have for you specifically with your testimony. You said that you encountered peace, joy, love, hope, all of those things hit your life. How did that change your life moving forward, just even in the first few weeks after that encounter?
It changed me instantly. Later that night, I was to meet my wife, and when she saw me for the first time, she knew something happened to me. She said I looked different. And I think I was basking in the glow. And that was a couple hours after this had happened to me. I was alone when it happened.
Is she a believer too in this time, or not yet?
Yeah, at that time, no, not at all. She was not really raised religious or anything. But one of her quotes to me was, "The man that I married is back." And I go into that in the book as well, and how it affected my relationships with people and the people in my lives. I lost a lot of friends. I gained some new ones. And making a story of this encounter with Jesus, a lot of people don't believe it. I've had people doubt me. And, I just plant the seed. If you want to know my story, I tell my story. But I wrestled with this testimony of what happened to me for the last 7 years. Why was I chosen? Why did this happen? Why did I see Jesus Christ himself in my car, of all places, on a rainy night, driving down the road? Okay, why? And what do I do with this? And I go into that a little bit in the book. I had some good mentors along the way. And one of the things I want to point out too, you say, how did it change me in the days and weeks after? The devil came at me hard. He came at me real hard after this. Yeah. And I ended up within 2 weeks, I got baptized in the Gulf of Mexico. I wanted the mark of Christ on me. I wanted to be on Team Jesus. And I wanted the enemy to know, it's over, buddy. Those days are gone. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I stand on this team. But, that's why I say I thought everything was done. That was the home run, seeing Jesus. But it was only the beginning. And I fought some demons immediately after.
Without giving too much information away, you did say that your wife said, "I got my husband back." But what did that mean? Because you said that you weren't really a Christian before. What do you mean by that? She got her husband back.
We had been married for about 17 years at that time and had drifted apart. And I didn't know I had drifted. Okay. I still thought I was the guy that was in control and doing everything. And the man that she fell in love with and who I was and the heart that she saw at that time, I guess it had become hardened and different and changed over time as we go about our daily lives and pursue success and families and different things. Yeah. And I was opened. I was different. I was
Isn't it
different.
amazing how just encountering Jesus opens us back up? It softens our heart and puts us back on that path where we're supposed to be in the first place. It's amazing.
Exactly. And you don't realize it. Like I say, the most profound thing to me was that feeling of weightlessness that I experienced after it.
Mhm.
That when I asked him, I confessed my sins and I let everything go, that it did leave me. It left me, and it was so awesome. It was so reassuring. I couldn't believe how free I felt. And I think that's, to the non-believers, I think that's a big problem when they think of us Christians, and they have questions about the faith and how it's going to change their lives. And I'm going to have to do all these rules and the things I enjoy in life. But to me, the exact opposite is true. It's liberating.
Yeah.
Faith in Jesus is liberating. The things that concern you and the anxieties and the hardships of life become so much more tolerable, and life becomes easier. It's not more difficult. It's almost like an oxymoron, and it's the mystery of the whole faith. Jesus said he will give us rest. He gave me rest. I'll tell you, I'm still resting.
Some of the things you write about here, it says you talk about growing up, heartbreak, redemption, and love. What else could you say about these things?
Oh man. Well, we all go through heartbreak. I certainly went through my heartbreak. I was didn't even know I was going to. I had heartbreak in the past as well. Love and redemption. Redemption comes in a lot of forms and a lot of shapes, but you have to be open to it. And I guess, without reading the whole book to explain that question, there is redemption. And Jesus not only redeemed me, but he redeemed my whole family through me and some other people I met along the way.
It's amazing. Another thing you wrote here is that if you wonder if miracles can still happen, this book is for you. And what are some other miracles that you encountered through your life? Maybe other testimonies or things you do write about in the book?
Well, I do write about a situation when I started my first business. And the name of that chapter in the book is called We Gotta Go Back. And I was in my late 20s and I had a business partner. And one of the stories I put in the book is we were near bankrupt. We had started our business a few months before and realized that our clients don't pay us right away. We didn't know that. We're young, started this business on a shoestring, and we were at our wits' end. We had to pay the rent. We had to pay our couple of employees, and we didn't know where to turn, and we had no money. Credit cards were done. And it was another kind of drizzly night, winter coming on in Chicago before Christmas. Again, it seems to be a theme in my life, right around Thanksgiving time, right around before Christmas.
The encounters happen.
And I said to my partner, I got the idea. I know how we can get our money. And he said, great. And I said, grab your coat, let's go. And we left our building. We walked out down the streets in Chicago, and we went to St. Peter's Cathedral in downtown Loop of Chicago. And he was like, what are we doing here? Why are we here? And he was raised Catholic like I was. And I said, we're going to go in and pray to God and ask him for money. So we did. Okay.
Wow.
And I don't want to give too much away. We screwed it up. We had to go back after he said his prayers, lit some candles, and kept the offering, a few bucks of money that we had for an offering. And he kept it. And I discovered that as we were walking back to the office. And now I was really ticked off. And I said, okay, we got to go back. You can't cheat God. Okay, this is what I said.
Yeah.
And we went back, and I'll leave the story there. And we redid the whole situation without giving too much away about what happened. But that's one of the chapters in the book, and it's called We Gotta Go Back.
What are some of your other favorite moments in the book? Of course, without giving too much away, but just to tease us a little bit.
I wrote about a lot of heavy things that happened in my life, and especially with the girl in the orange bikini. And writing it brought up a lot of memories. It was difficult. Before every writing session that I had, I worked on this book for almost 8 months, and I would pray. I'd ask the Holy Spirit to be with me. And I would tell God, this isn't just my story, this is our story. Help me tell our story. And, one of the things that what I did, I included in there, and midway through the book is a chapter called Soundtracks. I just listed the 50 songs that affected me in my life without saying why, for people to share. Pop rock, some worship songs that really touched my soul, songs I loved growing up. I was a child of the 60s. I grew up with a lot of music. Music was always a theme in our household, with me through my life. And even to this day, before we jumped on, I was listening to some tunes. I'm always listening to music. That was one of my fun chapters because I got to explore, why does this song mean so much to me? For instance, one of the songs I have in there is Lowdown by Boz Scaggs. And I want the readers to be so inclined to maybe give it a listen. But the reason that's in there is I also grew up during disco. And when I would go out with my friends, that was always at the disco. Lowdown was huge. And, Death Was Arrested by Aaron Shust. That song always touches my soul. And after I became a Christian, I used to think, Christian pop and rock was a yawner.
Yeah.
But after being touched and listening to it, so many of the songs just resonate what I felt. And Death Was Arrested is a song that resonated with me because he speaks about, being saved. And that's one of the emotions that I had when I went through this. But that was one of my fun chapters. And I also wrote about the time I asked at my first job for a raise, and some chapters about my parents and growing up. And the overriding themes I've had people that have previewed my book tell me is hope, family, love, and the search for peace, and kind of always returning to go home, a little bit like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. That's what we all search for.
Yeah. If you could give our audience one overall point that from your time here today, from just your overall message in your book, what do you think that would be?
That miracles do exist, because I'm living proof that miracles can happen. I had someone in my life ask me, why is it that people turn to Jesus and God when they're at their lowest points? It's the drug addict or the alcoholic who lost his family, or the guy that went bankrupt and is homeless now. Why is it that, the regular people that are just going through their lives, don't seem to experience it? And I said, because their hearts aren't open. When you're down at your lowest point and you've got no friends, you've got no family left, and you feel lost, that's when he'll appear to you. May not appear the way he did to me, but he'll be there. And you just got to reach up and take that hand, however it appears. So the overwhelming thing, I think, is that hope exists. You're never alone. It's never as dark as you think. You just have to open your heart and take it in, because it's there.
And it's interesting, like you say, you feel like you're alone. You felt like you were lost. You were alone and all of those things. But now looking back, you can see he was there. He was providing for you, protecting you, saving you from other things that could have happened.
Yeah. And one of the quotes in the book, because I said to Jesus, I can't believe it's you. You're really here. Where have you been? And he replied to me. Okay. I talked with him, and I don't want to give too much away, but the essence of it was he was always with me. It was almost like he said, goofball, I've always been here.
Just open your eyes or turn around, there I was.
Yeah. And, I approach it with humor, but there's a lot of heavy things in the book, but it's, I wanted to write it in a conversational style, easy to read. If my book, Jesus and the Girl in the Orange Bikini, doesn't go anywhere, that's okay, because it's already affected a few people in my circle that I let read the book. And that's what I wanted. It's not just my story, it's God's story. Like I said, I prayed most of the time before I started writing every chapter or where I was going, and said, help me tell our story. Let me tell our story. Let me do it justice, So I hope I did.
Do you have any plans for future books, other testimonies that you're going to write about?
I get asked that. I don't know. I really don't. Maybe just one and done. Maybe there's more. Maybe there'll be a follow-up. because life is always interesting. You never
Mm-hmm.
know. You just never know.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you would want to tell our audience today about your book, your life? Are you pursuing anything else in your life?
Yeah, I'd like to maybe just close with the fact that I'm just a regular guy. Still am. I'm still salty. I enjoy a good cigar. I enjoy going out and shooting a good game of pool. You know, Christianity, one of the big problems I had, and one of my mentors, and I write about him in the book, I said, okay, now that this happened to me, do I have to stand on street corners with my Bible? And he said to me, God made you who you are. Accept who you are. Saltiness and all. You love sports. You love baseball. Be you. It will come. In time, it will come. Don't try to be what you're not, because he created you. The creator created you. And that was one of the things that I struggled with. Okay, who am I now as a Christian? And last September, it just came to me. It was put into my soul. I don't know, from God to write this book, share our story. And I sat down on my laptop. I had a blank piece of paper, and I just started writing what happened. And it all came together. It just all came together.
Wonderful. Well, again, Robert, thank you so much for your time today. Where can we find this book? And do you have any other social media points or platforms that our audience can visit?
I'm not a big social media person. I am on Facebook. You can find me there. The book is available on Amazon. The ebook launch is April 11th. The paperback is available now. And that's probably where I'll just keep it rested. Again, I don't envision myself out there pounding the pavement. I'm not a Twitter, Instagram, TikTok type of person.
TikToker, yeah. I understand. And
it's on Goodreads too. You can find it in Goodreads.
Okay. One more thing. You said you love baseball. Of course, it's the Cubbies, right?
It was the Cubbies for most of my life. Last year, after they traded away some of our guys,
no.
I'm with the White Sox, and I lived in Florida for 17 years. I'm being
Okay, I understand.
I rooted for Chicago teams, so I did have a spot in my heart for the White Sox. But this year and last year, I went all in on the White Sox.
Wow.
I just couldn't handle the fact that the Cubs did it again and got rid of players we all invested in.
Yeah.
So,
again, well, Robert, thank you so much for your time. If I can have you end our podcast with a prayer, I would really appreciate it.
Sure. Dear God, thank you for giving us this time to share together. Thank you for the blessings in my life. Thank you for being with me and giving me the inspiration to share my story, to share my testimony, and to write this book. I ask that whoever hands this book goes into, they see who you are, the miracles that you can bring into someone's lives, the miracle that you brought into my lives, and how you never forgot me and you were always by my side. Also, I want to do a quick shout out, dear God, to the poor people in Ukraine that are suffering. Yeah. I ask that you end this war. You've stopped kings. You've moved mountains. Please end the war in Ukraine. Amen.
Amen.
You've just listened to the Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast with your host, Pastor Chris Busher. Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast was recorded live in studio with final editing made before uploading. Subscribe today to Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast on iTunes or Google Play. For more fantastic daily content, visit Pastor Chris Busher online via Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Don't miss the next episode on Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast.